let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's bring on our first guest. Today, we're going to be welcoming Monica Rinaldi. So, we're going to be talking about driver wellness and mental health. And Monica, super excited to have you on the show. You're the product manager of medical innovations and strategy at Travelers, and very excited. So, let's dive in. And before we get going here, wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into driver wellness.
Hi, everyone. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today. This is such a big issue in the industry and one that I'm really glad we're talking about more. As you said, I'm a claim product manager of medical innovation and strategy here at Travelers. I'm a nurse by background, and this is a topic very near and dear to my heart.
Let's dive right into it. One of the big things is if anyone has been around truckers, it's a very demanding job. And so when we're thinking about some of these mental health challenges, what are some of the biggest ones that they're facing, especially for those long haul truckers?
There's a lot. Long hours, overnight shifts, sleep disruptions, constant stress. Then you add in isolation, tight delivery windows, a lack of routine. It can really take a toll. Long haul, especially, can require you to work under conditions that can really wear you down, both the body and the mind.
And I think the isolation one is really important because you're thinking going out on weeks of a time, especially if you're managing over the road drivers. When I had them, you had to stay out for like 2 to 3 weeks just to get a day off at home. And that was back in the day. Let's talk about that factor of isolation because it can be very
Yeah.
lonely in that cab.
Yeah, absolutely. You miss birthdays, holidays, all the small things that connect you to your family, even to your community. And, while technology can let the drivers check in with home, it's really no substitute for an in person connection. That social isolation can turn into loneliness, even depression. Worse yet, even if a driver wants help, it's not always easy to get. Access is a huge issue. Many drivers, especially independents, don't have access to healthcare. And even for those who are full time employees, just getting back to home base to see a provider can be a challenge. And if you're crossing state lines, some virtual mental health visits aren't allowed if you're not in the same state as the provider.
And that's one of the crazy aspects. You mentioned the insurance aspect. I think it was the last
Mm,
time I looked at the data, it was like 40% of these smaller fleets and owner ops, like 40% of the drivers just don't have insurance. And so we're
right.
talking about the physical health component. That's a big challenge because driving is a very sedentary job. Your hours in the
Mhm.
seat on the road. Talk more about this physical health aspect because it can be, unless you have a game plan for wellness, that could be the silent killer while you're just trying to make a living.
Right. It's not just about mental stress. Drivers can also face poor nutrition, lack of exercise, long hours, like you said, sitting behind the wheel. Over time, that can lead to things like obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes. All of these physical stressors can make mental health worse too. It's all very interconnected. And then to make matters worse, you've got the job itself. You have high stakes, stress, it's exhausting. You've got deadlines, compliance, even weather to deal with. It just all really adds up. Then, when drivers aren't getting sleep, that's where it gets very dangerous. So, there is research that shows that being awake for 24 hours is like driving drunk. That's a real risk for truckers. Then, if they take stimulants just to help them get through, that can lead to dependency, major safety issues, but both for the driver and then everybody else on the road, too.
The sleep aspect, that's super important. I can
Yeah.
attest, having worked a third shift job, I was up 24 hours,
Mm.
and it definitely, I was like, oh no, I haven't been drinking any, but boy, it feels a little crazy. So
Yep.
that's a huge thing, especially the sleep aspect. Another aspect that we're looking at is trying to overcome stigma. So trucking is traditionally a male dominated industry, and when we're thinking about the culture of drivers as well, mental health is one of those things where we're kind of in the very early stages of getting people to think about it because of all these stigmas. Dive into some of that, because that
Yeah.
half the battle, it feels like, is getting someone to say that they may need help and then helping get them to use the resources available to get over that hump.
Yes, absolutely. So that's really the heart of it. Many drivers, especially men, don't want to admit that they're struggling. They're worried it's going to affect their job. It might make them look weak. And even like when they want help, they don't always know where to go. So that can lead to very poor coping skills. And some drivers turn to alcohol or drugs. Now, research does show that male dominated professions have more stigma related to mental health treatment. So many of these issues often go untreated. And individuals who have untreated mental health conditions are likely to have what we call maladaptive coping skills, which can lead them to use drugs or alcohol to help them cope and get through.
Maladaptive coping skills is that's kind of the word of the day. I feel like that's one of the big challenges is you got to identify, are you coping with it? How are you currently coping with it? And then there's a better way to cope with it without needing to
Yeah.
use stimulants or other type of stuff.
Yes.
So let's talk about what we can do about it because there's got to be some kind of silver lining to this. One of the good things, of course, is we're getting more information about it. So that's one positive. But if I'm a company and especially the industry, what are some of the things that we can do to help try to address this?
Yeah, absolutely. Things are definitely changing. I think that we need to take a more proactive, driver centered approach and make sure that mental health is treated as part of the overall driver safety. So, what does that mean? That means wellness campaigns, stronger employee assistance programs. Fleet managers need training to recognize red flags. The World Health Organization actually defines health as physical, mental, and social well being. So, if you don't have the mental part, or if that's a struggle, you don't have good overall health. So, we definitely need to support all three components. And then mental wellness can help lead to better performance, fewer incidents, longer careers. And that can help improve driver retention at a time when it's very challenging to find good drivers. So, giving these drivers these tools to manage stress, it's good for them, but it's also a smart business move.
One of my favorite stories was a company was using inward cameras, and for driver wellness, the cameras noticed that five of the drivers had sleep apnea because they could tell the fatigue. And so this company was like, "We're going to start a new campaign. We're going to help pay for you to go get the treatments. We're going to take care of you. You're going to get the CPAP machines." And the crazy part was, the guy told me afterwards, the drivers went from being some of the lowest performing drivers to some of the best performing drivers just because it was one of the ways to help address driver wellness, especially when it comes to getting enough sleep.
Absolutely. So important.
And Monica, I really appreciate you coming on the show as well. If folks want to learn more about some of the stuff you're working on at Travelers or try to get some more information, maybe they're like, I want to help create a driver program to help kind of tackle some of these. What is the best way to get more information about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we said, this is really about keeping people safe physically and mentally. I would definitely encourage today's listeners to check out some of our resources at travelers.com. I would specifically look at our risk control resources. And then, as well, we have a white paper published on employee mental well being, and our Travelers Institute has put that out. And it's very helpful information.
We'll definitely have to check it out. Monica, thank you so much for hopping on the show. It was your first time. Congratulations as well. And
Thanks.
especially with a live show, I'm super excited to see what y'all are working on. And we definitely hope to speak with you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.